Now, because the music is so loud in general, there are a couple ways we can help our voiceover to sail over top of it and generally sound pretty good. Now, there are a couple of ways you can do this. The first is to simply manually adjust the volume on different points. To do that, we're going to go to this track here, drag this down just to give it a little bit more space. And you can see here we've got this volume tab. There are a couple ways you can open this up for yourself if you don't see it. If you click on a track, the hotkey to pull that open is V. Ta-da! And it'll pull that open for us. Additionally, if you want the panning, which is to change things from the left speaker to the right speaker, the hotkey for that is to, again, click on the track, P, pan, there we go. We're not going to use that for the moment. So we're going to click on this track, V, and here we go. Now, to manually change the volume, we can adjust this by dragging it up and down, but that does it for the whole track. So what we need to put in here are called keyframes. To do that, I'm going to click the key command, and it will pull open this little pencil thing when I'm on here. And I can click on individual points if I want, and then drag them as they're selected, and that will change the volume. Alternatively, I can click the control, hold it, and draw as I want. That can be a nice fluid way to make adjustments as you want and then fine-tune them later with each point there. You just have to make sure to click on the individual point that you want to adjust. But that sort of manual adjustment is a lot of labor to tweak manually, which you can do if you wish. But I'm going to show you another way to do that, and it's called sidechain compression. What sidechain compression is essentially we're taking the loudness specifications of one track, sending it to another track, and telling that other track to turn the volume up and down based off of the first track. That sounds like a lot of gobbledygook. We'll get more specific here in a second. So down here in my mixer, what I'm going to do is grab this little button, which is the sends, receives, hardware outputs. If you've ever seen those old school operators where they're pulling out pins, putting them in another, we're essentially pulling out a pin from track one, VoiceOver, pulling it out, plugging it into track 2 music and saying, hey, music, listen to this. So we're going to click on this, hold, drag it over to our music track, and release it. This little window will pop up. The first thing we're going to do is in these audio channels here, we're going to see channel 1 and 2, which is the main channels here. We're going to click on this little caret, new channels on receiving track 3 and 4. What this does is it allows the music to not change when it's listening to things, but listen to our voiceover track instead. Now, if you accidentally click out of that, fear not. All you have to do is click on this guy, and it will pull open that same window, and that little tiny guy that we were just working from is down here in the bottom right-hand side. The next thing that we want is to adjust this little drop-down menu. There are 3 options if you click on it. Post fader, post pan. What this is it will listen to the audio after we've made all of these adjustments with this track's fader. We don't want that necessarily for this one, so we'll skip down to the next option, pre-fader, post FX. This is the one we want because what that's going to do is take into account all of the processing that we've applied to the first track before telling the second track, our music, what we want to do with it. The third option simply disregards the effects that we've applied to the first track. That's all we do. Once again, if you need a refresher, you'll click, drag on this over here, release, click on that to open it. Audio channels 1 and 2, we'll click on this drop-down menu. 3 and 4 may not be readily visible for you, so you'll go down to New Channels, click 3 and 4, take Pre-Fader Post FX here, click that, and you've got everything set up just as you want it. The next step in our sidechain compression, we're going to go back to our FX browser, take our compressor, open up the FX on the music track, pull the compressor into it, and we'll reset it to the factory default for now. The first step is to take director input, auxiliary inputs. This is what we were doing with the changing channels and post-fader FX. We're setting it up so our compressor can listen to things here. So we're going to change that to auxiliary inputs. Now, what we're going to do is play the audio. We're going to drag the threshold down as we go. Let's give it a try. These kids are the pickiest eaters. I'm worried my little ones aren't getting the vitamins in their diet that they need. I sometimes get away with hiding the occasional carrot in a casserole that they'll actually eat, but that doesn't happen often enough. My doctor recommended VitaFun children's vitamins. They're gummy and delicious, and my kids just love. So that sounds pretty good to me in terms of the volume, but you'll notice here in this little bit where I stopped talking, the music kicked back up really loud and really suddenly. To stop that from happening, what we're going to do is take the release and drag that out to an extended period of time so that the volume of the music won't all of a sudden turn up just in a small moment when I'm not speaking. To really accentuate what I'm talking about, this is what we don't want. Vitamins. They're gummy and delicious, and my kids just love them. Now, so the music is not even being compressed at all. Vitamins. They're gummy and delicious, and you can hear it pumping a lot. Whereas if I have the release really long, this is what it sounds like. The VitaFun children's vitamins. They're gummy and delicious, and my kids just love them. So it holds the compressor on for a fair amount of time. A good setting for this, you can play around with it and see what works well for you. I'm going to set it at 500 and see what we like. The ratio, you can play with that as well a little bit. This will turn down the music more or less in relation to your voiceover. So if I have a really loud threshold, it will, if I have a really high ratio, it will turn the music essentially off. So those are the two differences. We'll go with a gentle-ish ratio. I'll set it at 6:1 for now. And that's sidechain compression. Another thing that you can do to help your voiceover soar over the music is add a little bit of EQ to your music track. So I'm going to grab the re-EQ, pull it on over, and we're just going to reset all of these to the baseline, so it's just a straight line. The reason an EQ can help is for most voices, the majority of the information of our voice, where most of the sound is between about 100 hertz up to about 1,000 hertz, to be a little bit generous there. That's where the majority of sound in our voices rests. And so the music, we can turn down the volume on the music where our voice is simply by adding a band of attenuation, turning down the volume where our voice would be most. What that looks like is simply turn this guy on and we'll take it out by about 3 to 5 dB, just in those frequencies where my voice would be. So let's give it a try and see what we can hear. I sometimes get away with hiding the occasional carrot in a casserole that they'll actually eat, but that doesn't happen often enough. My doctor recommended VitaFun children's vitamin. So it's very, very subtle, but that just will help a little bit more to give your voice more space over the music. So